can do. I mean, you have to start from somewhere, you know. So we'll come to unpack that one. Let's go back to Elder E. We'll come back to you. So I don't know if we do private business. We should mix it. I was thinking that we'll focus and finish, but I think we should mix it, and then we can pick. Oh, you want to finish? You want to finish yours? Okay, then let's finish with the Briawaje. How in the private sector, how you can start, and how you can get to where you have gotten to now. So now, what do you have now? What is the business? How is the business? How big is the business now?
In fact, I do a lot.
Yeah.
I'm into transport business.
Okay.
I'm into rentals.
Okay.
A bit of real estate.
Okay.
I'm into farming.
Back to the old people.
Yes.
Back to your first love.
And there's one. I'm a private person. In fact, not in terms of business, but I always love to be in my one corner.
Yeah.
So I find it difficult to share my life experience. But there's something I want to share with you. I call it principles of life.
Yeah.
Wherever we may find ourselves, I think there are some pillars we must elect, maintain, and allow it to govern us. I have chosen 7 pillars, and these pillars have really helped me. The first pillar to elect as a businessman or an entrepreneur is passion. You must get passion for whatever you want to do. The second pillar to look at is commitment. You must be committed to the cause. Whatever you want to do, you must be committed. Because if I was not committed, I wouldn't have been able to pay monthly rent, to take a loan and pay back. The third pillar to look at is determination. If you are determined, you'll be able to reach your goal. So as a private person, you have to be determined. The fourth pillar to elect is discipline. We must be disciplined financially and also time conscious. We must be disciplined. Because if you are not disciplined, you may wear your houses, you may wear your investments if you are not disciplined. Because you take your investment to go and buy dress. So financially, you must be disciplined. And we must be time conscious, because time is money. The fifth pillar to look at is hard work. If you are able to work for your boss for 8 hours, you should be able to work for yourself for 12 hours. The temperance people may disagree with me, but it's a fact. We have to work hard. That's the fifth pillar to elect. And the sixth pillar to consider is trust as a private person. You must be trustworthy. You should be able to build trust around yourself. Let people have confidence in you. Let them be able to say that, go and give it to him, he will be able to deliver. Let them be able to say, consider him, he can do it for you. So the sixth pillar to look at is trust. And the seventh one is humility. It pays to be humble. Let's humble ourselves wherever we find ourselves.
Interesting.
Believers in Christ, if we are able to build these 7 pillars and maintain them and allow these 7 pillars to govern us with God on our side, failure will not be our portion.
Amen.
These 7 pillars, I've rated it 100%. I gave passion 20%. I gave discipline 20%. I gave trust 20%. That will give you 60%, and the 40% I considered determination, I considered commitment, I considered hard work, and I considered humility. I gave them 10 each. So this 100% will put you at the top as a businessman. And when you get there, you must think like a leader. When you are at the top, you must think like a leader and work like an owner. That is when you are at the top, because that's where the challenges are. And there are some principles you must avoid. I name it the 2 C's. Avoid the 2 C's and rather uphold the 3 E's. One may ask, what are the 2 C's and what are the 3 E's? Please, when you get to the top, don't be complacent. When you get to the top, don't be content. So these are the 2 C's to avoid when you are at the top. Then uphold the 3 E's. The 3 E's are: continue to be efficient, continue to be effective whilst you are at the top, and please try to be economical. And if this is done, God will always see you through whatever you've started. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, since you have started it, let's continue with you. just a few more things, maybe to delve deeper, or maybe I should leave the floor for members to ask the questions, because I'm quite itchy to ask questions, you know. I want to delve into it, but at this moment forth, Elder is here. If you have any question, let me know, and then I can put it. But while we are waiting for them, let me ask you, what does it mean to start small? You know, I mean, your background, where the story you have told us of your life now is quite a lot from where you started from. You know, when you realized that the farming in your backyard at home was not working, you decided to abandon it. We'll come to that. If it's not going and you have to continue by force, I will do this. Is there a point where you need to say, look, this is not working, let me do something else? And then to start small, when you launched off on your own, you didn't buy 10 computers and 20 laptops, but you started with 1 or 2 to start off with a small business. What does it mean? 2 things are questions I've asked you. Is there a point that you can say that, look, this is not working, let me do something else? And then when you start something, should you start big? Others are making it big. What is the value in starting it small?
In fact, the reason why I stopped farming was that I didn't consider so many things. So I will advise that before you enter into a business, consider it very well. justify it to yourself. Why do I want to do this? If you are able to do that, I think the mistakes will not be much. So first of all, identify what you want to do and justify it. Let me give you an example. We don't do cornmeal business at East Legon. We don't do cornmeal business at East Legon. We do cornmeal business around the Zongos, maybe around Dabraka, Kokomemre. Because those over there, they will prefer going to the mall to buy condo. They will never patronize your business. So if you don't consider what you want to do, if you don't justify it, and you go into it, you may fail. You may fail. Nothing is too big, nothing is too small. It depends on how you value what you are doing. Because if I've been able to survive by God's grace without a dime, you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
You should be able to do it. Yeah. So it's not about the size of the business. It's about determination and commitment.
Yeah. Good, great. Any question before I continue? So, why? Tell us a little bit about trust, because your boss at Tema could commit the work he started in Losu to you. The landlady was happy to let you have the place to continue. Your friend Anajo was willing to give you money to start off. Tell us a little bit about the importance of trust in doing business.
I will say it is the grace of God. Secondly, don't portray two characters. Let your yes be yes and no be no. The Sami at Laboni, the same Sami sitting at Bethel. I don't have two characters. So let your yes be yes and let your no be no. If it's white, say it's white. Don't say it's ash. If it's black, say it's black. Don't say, I can't see you. No. Be yourself. Yeah. And be truthful to yourself and to your maker. Yeah. Yes. So if you are truthful to yourself and you are truthful to your maker, I'm sure the mark will be on your forehead.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you'll find favor.
Yeah. Right. Great. Thank you very much, Elder. I believe that when we have questions, we will delve deeper into you. So we'll allow you to drink your water small. Thank you. Back to you. For those who are on the path of going into employment, from school, being employed in a company to work, Elder, what do you think? What are the key principles? What are the core things that drove your experience in building your career?
Thank you. Thank you, Elder. Let me make a general comment before I come to that. I think looking at seminars like these, the text that comes to mind, it's not a direct application, but sort of paraphrasing, I think is very important. Acts 17:30. It says what? The times of ignorance God overlooks, but now commands men everywhere to take notice. I guess if you come sit here and listen to all this, and you go back and you don't learn from it, you have a problem. You can't blame anybody but yourself. Because I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom in what Elder has said, which we can all learn from. And So let me progress and make another statement. Recently, we've had some discussions about working in the public sector versus the private sector. And the conclusion is very simple. People decide to work in the public sector have one advantage that the private sector doesn't give you. Assurance of having a job for a long term. That's the certainty of a job generally. Unfortunately, you don't get to be paid as much as in the private sector. But there's advantages, like I said, significance of job certainty. And number two, for instance, during times of challenges, like the COVID days, those in the private sector either lost their jobs, got their salaries slashed and so on. Public sector, people have to go home, they will continue to be paid. For me, that's a big difference between public and private sector. Aside from that, if you choose to work for somebody, it shouldn't make any difference, really. Especially if you call yourself a Christian. It shouldn't make any difference at all. So there are certain principles which I'd say apply to me. I think you should apply to anybody, whether in the public sector or private sector. And a number of them, elders highlighted. Indeed, maybe let me quickly add to this matter of trustworthiness. It is so foreign to most Ghanaian businessmen that that's the undoing of most businesses. Two people could come together and take advantage of synergies that they can bring together. The expertise of one, maybe the finance from the other. Before long, one will be seeing how to cheat the other, and they kill the business instead of growing it. So the trustworthiness thing is so huge, and it's one of the things I think I'll mention as well. So that having mentioned the matter of learning and making sure we go forward with it, let me highlight my principles. And my approach will be slightly different. I'm going to give you a Bible text for each of them so you can read for yourself when you get back. So for me, the first one is Colossians 3:22 to 24. So that when you go home, you can read it for yourself. And Paul here tells his listeners, the Colossians, that when you work for somebody, don't do your work with eye service, men pleasers. That's the way he puts it. But do whatever you do heartily as unto the Lord, not unto men. So if you get that context, your style of working is completely different. You know, whatever you're doing is not for your boss. It is working for God. Because ultimately he rewards. It's Colossians 3:22 to 24. The second one, I'll be very brief so that then we can do question time later. The second one is Proverbs chapter 19, verses 1 and 2. Proverbs 19, 1 and 2. And it talks about, better is the poor that walketh in his integrity. He may be poor, but having integrity is such a big thing. Goes along with honesty. In fact, in the Message version of the Bible, it talks about honesty. Being honest, having integrity. It is not common. Indeed, the rich man Buffett says it's not common in business or anywhere else. You hardly find people who are honest. But it goes on in verse 2 to say, also, that the soul be without knowledge is not good. Lack of knowledge, ignorance, it's not good. If you work for somebody or for yourself, if you are ignorant, you have a problem. Make sure you know what you are doing and be the best in it. Know it such that they will choose you anytime rather than somebody else. So ignorance is not good enough. And a third thing that text comes up with, he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. In the Message it says, haste makes waste. And particularly about money. Young people nowadays, all they think about is, how can I make plenty of money and now? you certainly will get into trouble. No two ways about it. Be the best you can, know your work very well, and be honest. Be a person of integrity. Like Elder said, people will choose you anytime. It may be a gradual process, but you will get there. The third one I want to mention, one of my favorites, is Proverbs 22:29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean or ordinary men. And I think Elder highlighted that as well. Diligence. Proverbs 22:29. The fourth one for me is Deuteronomy 28:1 and 2. You can read the whole chapter, but let me focus on just 1 and 2. It says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently. The message says, if you listen obediently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments, which I command you this day. What will be the result? If I jump to verse 2, it says, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee. The blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee. And you need to read the rest of the chapter. It's not just about spiritual blessing. All the blessings you can think about are mentioned here if you are obedient to the Lord. So that's critical for us. And then the last one I'll add, probably, not the last one, the last but one, is Genesis chapter 41, verses 33 through 36, talking about Joseph. Joseph is before Pharaoh, and he makes this recommendation. Verse 33. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet or discerning and wise. If you are wise, if you are discerning, you'll be the man to look after. And so Pharaoh decides he was going to work with him. And one of the things that Joseph recommends as well is this. It is very important. Verse 34. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land. To do what? To take up the fifth part of the land in the 7 plenteous years. Take a fifth part, that's 20%. He's advising Pharaoh, when there is a plenty, take 1/5 of it, 20% of it for what? And store it for tomorrow. Verse 36 says, that food shall be for store for the land against the 7 years of famine. The principle for me here is, in the time of plenty, don't think whatever you are getting is for that period only. Remember, bad times come. They will always come. So plan for the bad time. And your good time may not be really very plentiful, but just that you are getting something. You might think what I have is not plenty. But remember, no matter how small you have, somebody has less than you have. So if you have anything at all, remember, I need to store some for tomorrow, which could and often is worse than today. Then the final one that I want to talk about is what the wise man says in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1. It says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. It ties in with the last one. Like it or not, when you're a young person, you think you got all the exuberance and so on, and you can do all the things you want to do. Go ahead and do them by all means. But remember, there are days, evil days, in all sorts of ways. So today, remember your Creator and live according to His will. And when the evil days come, He sure will be the one to hold your hands through it. And I think these broadly spell out principles for me. Whether you're working in the private sector, public sector, you ought to do this. And it would certainly lead to success, not in the short term, not hurriedly, but over time, it assures you of peace and success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elder. So, just follow up to that, then Doc will come to you. What will it take to get to the top? What will it take to get, now there's general saying that if you work in an institution, you must have a godfather. Do you have a godfather? They say that you must, lick somebody's boot, what will it take to get to the top in whatever profession or career, organization that you find yourself? What will it take to get to the top?
Maybe let me just say that the Bible has said what has happened is what will happen. However, it goes on to say that knowledge shall increase. And then it goes on to say wickedness shall increase. Those are facts. It is much worse than probably when I started working. I look at some institutions and I see what I will call political appointments, not just at the top, but fairly low levels. And it creates all kinds of challenges for institutions, one, for leadership, because if you want to chart the right course, these implants become impediments and they will frustrate you. It's much worse than when I used to work. Because when I used to be at the commission, for instance, there were times I had the audacity to tell my bosses, what you're telling me, we cannot do it. And they knew what I stood for. I simply would say, this we cannot do. And they understood. They understood because, one, they know I will insist on the right thing being done. But number two, they know I'll never undermine them. It doesn't happen. I'll never challenge my boss in public. No, it never happens. When he does something wrong, I'll drop him a note and let him decide to correct it or not. And typically afterwards, I'll go to him one-on-one and tell him, this is likely to be the outcome of this, and leave it to him to decide what to do. So much as sometimes I tell them, we can't do this, they understand I'll never seek their downfall. I'll seek their good anytime. They understood that. But let me say that, like I said right from the beginning, as I look back, I can only say God charted my course every step of the way. I didn't really apply to the Minerals Commission, so there's no way I can say I wanted to be Chief Executive at Minerals Commission. I was sent there against my wishes, if you want to. But then, along the way, and again, let me say that I didn't have any godfather. Several times along the way, people thought I had some connection. I didn't have any. There were times people were fighting against me. They will go and try to say things about me. And out of the blue, later I'm told, somebody will ask, are you sure you know the person you are talking about? So, like Elder said, being trustworthy, being a person of integrity is so critical. And being diligent in the work you do, such that you do it and do it well, such that they would rather you do their work than somebody else do it. It's very, very important. So for me, right from the beginning, I didn't choose to go to the commission, but from day one, I enjoyed everything I did thoroughly. Because I had so much exposure that with hindsight, I wouldn't choose anywhere else. It was not about money. It was more about job fulfillment. My boss wanted to train me, and even his boss came to the office and said, make sure you train these young men well. So I was so happy this is a place they value your contribution. So for me, that was one of the critical things. So I put in everything I could. Again, there wasn't much of competition for me. 3 of us joined the commission at the same time. 2 were sent to the same department. I was alone in my department. So there was nothing like competition for me, although I did the best I could. And there were opportunities for me which made me sort of stand out. For most of you are used to computers, even on your phones and so on. When I left the university, I had never touched a computer. I had not seen a computer, much less touch a computer. But then, those of you who know what it means to do financial analysis, do internal rates of return and so on, I'd been exposed to it in my public finance class on campus. So I went to the office, and at a point in time, we needed to do scenarios to set up the kind of environment we would establish for the mining sector. And that job fell on me to do. You can imagine doing that with a calculator. Not a financial calculator, a regular calculator. So I had to write down scenarios and use a calculator to determine the internal rate of return, the NPVs, and so on. A calculator. That's what I did.
Wow.
So sometimes a whole day I could do one, or at best two. And I therefore had the opportunity to work with the chief executive himself. Then, as God will have it, we had a UN project that came in, introduced computers to us. And my job was the one which required computers more than any other. So I was there with the consultants, like from when I get to work to when I close. And then when I got used to it, it was like, wow, this is heaven. I remember the first time I set up a scenario on the computer with the information I had. I typically work on it and go back to the chief executive and tell him I finished, and he'll say, what if we change this? Yeah. Then we will go back. So I did that. I went to him. Then he said, what if you change? I said, okay. But knowing the things we have been changing, I'd set up a spreadsheet such that they were the key parameters. So I went back, and in less than 5 minutes, I'd gone back to him. He said, is there any problem? I said, no, I had finished. He said, you have done what? He couldn't believe it. So the next thing, he moves with me to the computer room, and we are changing things to see what will happen. So that immediately made me catch his eye. And he got me involved in so many other things. Things I didn't know about, I'd never heard about. He got me involved because he thought I had potential. So again, that helped me even to be promoted fairly quickly, because I was doing a whole lot of things. Some didn't have anything to do with my job. Believe it or not, me who had never touched a computer, I became the coordinator for ICT. So for a number of years, I was the person in charge of computers at the work. I'll be helping others all day, and then after 5, I do my work. But again, this brings me to something I think we need to note, particularly the young people. When you are doing the hard work, you think nobody notices, but people take notice of it. To the extent that when there were training programs, it was he, the chief executive, who immediately would try to find what would be suitable for me. In the end, I got appointed his special assistant. When I was not a director, but I became a special assistant. And I will look at all correspondence that come to the office and decide what he needs to see and what others need to work with. Through that, I got to know virtually anything and everything the commission is about. And that helped my progression a lot. So for me, to understand, like I started off, that it is not about doing a job for my boss. And I've told so many people who work under me, you don't work for me. We are both working for the organization. You get paid for your job, I get paid for my job. So once you understand that, I want to be the best in what I do. And once you do that, people take notice. And very importantly, God blesses what you do and you progress.
Thank you. You know, it reminds me of one of the things that we talked about during the week. A man after God's own heart does not find excuses. You know, when a job opportunity comes to work, oh, this is not my job. When there's an opportunity to do some extra work that is beyond what has been assigned to you, oh, this one I cannot do it, I'm busy. But I learned from you that once you take up these additional responsibilities, it builds you up and positions you where you can take up additional responsibilities when they come. We'll come back to you.
Elder, let me, given an Adventist setting, let me just add this. The matter of Sabbath. We have big issues with Sabbath observance. You want to get a job, and because of Sabbath, you don't get taken. And I guess part of the problem is people who call themselves Adventists. We get into a job, and we are willing to do anything on the Sabbath, including go to games. And therefore, when people get to know that, it creates a problem for people who come in subsequently. They say, oh, but this guy is an Adventist, but he does this. And it's so important that we don't do that. It's so important. If you intend to do that, don't call yourself an Adventist. You create problems for others. From the time I entered the job, they knew Sabbath is a no-go area for me. There were times we had to work over weekends to deliver on Monday. What I did was basically to tell them, do whatever you have to do Sabbath. Sunday I'll come to work and do my part. Indeed, there was a day we had to submit our budget on Monday. I asked them to do what they wanted to do Sabbath. I went to work at the job 600 next to the cemetery. I went to work Sabbath evening. I worked throughout the night and part of Sunday to make sure that Monday the job was done. So you can't complain about me not working on Sabbath. What I have to do, I get it done. And it's so critical that we need to look at that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elder. Please be putting your questions together. We'll come to you. So, Doc, let's come to you now. Your experience. What has been the trajectory for you? What has been the guiding principles? You could have made a lot of money. I mean, what did your parents say? That, look, instead of going into the private sector to making a lot of money, you are doing all this thing that has to do with community, sacrificial job, instead of focusing on making money. What were some of the principles that guided you in all these?
Actually, before I come there, I just want to pick on something Elder I mentioned regarding the Sabbath. I remember that interview at the Scholarship Secretariat, because on the form you have to fill your religion. I filled Adventist. Interestingly, it looks like there was an Adventist or someone who knew about Adventism on the panel. So he says, I see you're an Adventist. What will happen if somebody is sick on Sabbath? So I told him, sir, yes, I normally will not work, but if someone is dying, I'll definitely go and save that person, because Jesus healed on the Sabbath day. And he says, I have no words, you get out. Okay? But yes, this is about choices. When I was finishing my residency, I had two options. Either to come to Ghana. In fact, there was a job already for me at 37. Then the call from the General Conference came. And this we had to pray about it so much, because there was something the GC called deferred appointment plan, where they appoint you way before you finish your residency. And I decided to go to the mission. Even there were some choices that I had to make, because there were three places I remember: at Maya Cares in Puerto Rico, Bangkok Adventist Hospital, and then Yucca Adventist Hospital in Zambia. Again, I settled on Zambia, and I did that even before I went to look, because my whole principle is to give back to the community. And in fact, it's through that process that I met my wife.
Auntie Ruth. Auntie Ruth, we greet you.
Because when I went for the interview, one of the questions was, are you married? Because where we planning to send you, alone you may not survive. I said no. The rest of the story I'll tell you later. But even though I'm not as wealthy as other colleagues, but I don't regret a day for choosing what we chose. In fact, when I went to the station where I was posted, the only thing I had were patients. No equipment. I had to start right from the scratch. Put together what I need and all those things then before they managed to procure. And so that was a training for me, because normally in most of these places you go, everything is there. And if it's not there, you don't work. But here you have to put down what you want to use, and then they'll procure it for you. Number two, it exposed me a lot, because of going to those places, my work usually stands out in the crowd. I've always I listened to a motivational speaker say, what would you be remembered with once you are no more there? About legacies. And so in whatever we do, we have to make sure you leave a legacy there. Even if you're a street sweeper, they should say, oh, once upon a time, there was that street sweeper who swept it so well. And that's one lesson I want to leave with you people. Doesn't matter whether you're there, you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you are a cleaner, just do it to the best of your ability, so that when you are not there, people will remember you. The other thing is opportunities for evangelism. In fact, I'm not sure whether I told this story before, but one of my experiences, articles I wrote during my time there, reached the maximum security prison in Zambia. And one of the inmates who was on the death row wrote back to me that what I wrote, because the title was, I was blind, but now I can see. And I used that to produce a devotional message. It says that message gives him courage. Even if they come to take him to hang him, he's ready to go. For me, these are some of the things that makes me happy, the route I took. I don't know what else to say, but I don't regret an inch. Even though, yes, when you come home, they'll show you, this is your friend, that's his mansion, this is your friend, that's his. I said, let's put that aside. But I personally want to do what I'm happy with, what I think will make me satisfied. Because after all, how many bedrooms do you sleep at a night? And you see some of these elderly people, they have 2-3-story buildings. They can't even climb the stairs to go up. They have swimming pools. They can't swim in them. They just spend money maintaining them. And so me and my wife, because we always worked as a team, our main objective is to see other people happy, to give our shoulders for other people to climb up. And it's a blessing for someone to come to you, doctor, do you remember me? Remember you taught me this and that at such and such a place. That's the joy we find. And other people, you know, you're crossing the border, somebody comes to you, doctor, you remember me? Or they look at the passport, they look at you, look at the passport. Did you work here in Zambia before? I say, yes. Do you remember treating me when I was a child? They don't even look at your luggage. Okay? those are the benefits of this casting your, rather than looking at what you are going to eat just today. And so that selfless attitude which we picked up from the missionary field has really helped us to grow as people. And there are other things that I noted here that I want to share with you, and a lot of them have been actually already elaborated. Choices. Choices are very, very important, but before you make a choice, do what we call market survey.
Due diligence.
Okay, I think the elder mentioned about it. Do a market survey. Where will my services be most appreciated? Number 2, be passionate in what you do. Just do it from deep down your heart. Number 3, it's the hard work that we've all been talking about. Number 4 is do not forget your roots. Do not forget where you came from. Because most of us, when we get out there, forget that we were even walking before. Not even working, but a friend of Namdati, walking barefooted. Okay? And then another thing is be innovative. Be innovative. And this is very, very important, because in a number of places, people rather fold their hands because this is out of stock, that is out of stock, and so we are not doing surgeries. I have actually done surgery using the hair of the horse, okay? Because someone was cut in that place I'm talking about. We needed to do something for this person. There was nothing else there. You just soak that in disinfectant, then use a hypodermic needle. You push it this way, push the needle here, pull it back, tie it, and then you are there. Be innovative so that you can get the work done, because sometimes you don't have the things to work with, but you have the know-how. Just use it. Then be bold. Be bold. Step out in faith. Step out. One time, one story we met on the mission field is I went to this place for an outreach. We found a woman who had a retained placenta for about 3 days. And we had to do something for her to save her life. We just used whatever I knew to do, and then we extracted the placenta. Another one is someone who had obstructed labor. The baby's fetal heart was going down. There was no anesthetist nearby. The next place where there's a hospital was, you had to cross the Zambezi River, which is anything from 8 to 8 hours onwards. And we waited. I had to actually bring the baby out using local anesthesia. I inject, the place is numb by cut, go there when she says she's feeling pain, I inject, cut, and that sort of thing. Otherwise, we're going to lose the mother and the baby. So you have to be bold, step out, and then do what you need to do. And another one is just make sure what you choose to do is what you are really passionate to do. Not choosing because there is more money there, or maybe someone is pushing you to choose that, but choose because you have the know-how, you have the skills, you have what it will take you to be successful in that area. And with those things we did, when people came to see what had happened, they just didn't have any way but to recommend you to go higher up.
Thank you. So if there are questions, or both here or online, please let me know. I think we have just a few minutes. We're closing at what time? 6? Around about 6. That leaves us like 10 minutes. So let me go around, Elder. You've been resting for a while. And I'm going to ask all of you, what has been some of a challenging experience in your development that you recall, how you handled it? And so far, what has been some of your high points? Maybe you don't have to share all of it with us, but maybe 1 or 2 high points that you felt satisfied with where you have come so far, you know. But what has been some of the challenges that you've had to face and how you've overcome them? And then maybe we'll go, this time I will go straight from you, then Elder Yafi will come to you, then Elder Yi will come to you last. So high points, low points.
Let me talk about the challenges first. You see, it's not easy to be an Adventist entrepreneur because of over invoice and under invoice. It's a bit challenging. But you should hold on to the faith. Let them know that you are an Adventist. And you can say with Joseph, I will not do this against my Maker. You may lose him or her as a customer, but you hold on to the faith. The second one, my motivation and my joy when I see my business growing, when I'm able to help my church, when I'm able to help the members in my church and my community. When I know that one day I'll become like S.D.A. and S.D.A. more sincere and successful. If you look at these things, it encourages you to work hard. So when I see my business growing, when I know that I can help my church, I can help my church members, I can help the people in my community, and I know one day I'll be successful like my senior elders, it motivates me a lot.
Right. Good. Thank you. There was one of the things that I wanted to ask that I didn't ask earlier on. You are an employer. How do you relate to your people? Are there difficult employees? How do you manage them? What do you do to keep your employees happy to work for you? You know, so if I start my own business, what are some of the things that I need to look out for as a businessman?
Don't treat your workers as one bunch of people. Know how to treat each and every one of them, because they come from different backgrounds. They have different attitude, but relate to them well. Motivate them well. Don't play divide and rule tactics. Don't play divide and rule tactics. Let them see you as a father. Go down to their level and let them come up to your level. Work together as a team. Make sure that there's discipline all the time. And if you do that, you always keep them.
Thank you very much, Elder. Yes, Elder, we have highs and lows.
Our challenges, and in fact, all the places I've worked, there has been challenges big time, but I'll just focus on a couple of the challenges. You know, the area I'm working is a specialized area, and finding the right people in your team is very, very challenging. I'm just blessed to have my wife as a partner, because when we moved back to Ghana, she was the only one I had to start building up. Again, people have had their, we have a certain philosophy that we operate with. People have had their cultures already developed from wherever they are. They have their own objectives, why they want to work there. And so getting the right people to work with has been a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge. The second one.
So, Elder, how do you get around these? I mean,
well, you have to go through a number until you find the right ones. And that has been the challenge. Even though, and what frustrates me is we have opportunities to actually send people to go higher up, but you need to carefully select those ones to be able to get them to go and get that skill. And that is the frustrating part. Because at my level, I cannot just send anybody at all. They know if I'm recommending such a person, and that's the challenging part. Recommending such a person means that person must be the right person there. And that's the frustrating part. And so, and in the work we do, you cannot work alone. We work as a team. And once you have the right team built, the work becomes very easy, very enjoyable, and that sort of thing. The second one is actually what he mentioned, because we deal with suppliers and all kinds of people supplying us equipment and other things, and the principle should always be there, where because of who we are, we cannot accept such and such over invoicing or whatever, because the people who are supporting you, you are not the only people they are supporting, by the way. They are supporting other people from elsewhere. So when you send your request out, they compare it with other people. Or you send your report out, they divide it by the number of patients you see with the amount of money they sent you. They say the cost per person is so much. And there are several other people they are supporting in the same country. Say, how come the same country, one person costs $50, another one $20? And so as a Seventh-day Adventist, as a Christian, we try to make sure that we have the right figure, to make sure we actually make the best value of the dollar that we are talking about, making sure our services are as cost-effective as possible. What makes us very joyful is people coming and going back changed. We call it changing lives. You know, some of the people who come to our place, when they come back after they have been treated, you can't even recognize them. In fact, anyway, let me stop right here. But people always call me, do you remember me, doctor? And I can't, because their lives have been changed. And that is what brings us joy. Yeah. And we're hoping that each and every one that will enter our facility will not go back home just seeing physical light, but seeing the spiritual light as well.
Amen.
And Madame always, before she work on somebody, gives a prayer. Some patients, when they come for their second eye, if you are slumbering, they will ask, this time we didn't pray. And for me, that is actually a ministry on its own. Yeah. For people to know there's somebody superior who is actually treating them, not just us. Yeah. So the opportunity to evangelize is what also gives us a lot of joy.
Thank you very much. Yes, Elder, your highs and lows.
Highs and lows. I guess for me, my high is basically where I'm able to be relevant, where I'm able to meet a need. That is, it gives me a lot of joy to know that my input made a difference, and people appreciate that. So for me, that's a big thing. And a number of times that has worked in my favor. And again, it sort of has set the trail for others. For instance, being able to write books on the areas I've worked, to document more or less things that I find that are not documented, has sort of sent a signal to colleagues to also start documenting some areas that they have worked in. And it gives me a lot of joy to see that. My challenge, though, is I'm very impatient with people who think they can take me for granted. I don't take it lightly, unfortunately. There are people who think they can take your... I like to come down to people's level. Irrespective of who you are, it doesn't make any difference to me. For me, I can come down to anybody's level. But once I do that and you think you can take advantage of me, typically we'll have a big fight. And that's typically for me. And so it's maybe sometimes I've not managed it too well. And that's for me the biggest challenge. It's something I think I need to do better on. So I keep praying about.
Right. Thank you very much. I think it's been a wonderful time. It's 6 o'clock now. I think that would be a good time to wrap up. Oh, there's a question? Okay. Oh, I see. There are questions. Okay. I was wrapping up, but we'll take those questions and then we can wrap up. Yes, Ken. We can't hear you. Is your microphone on? But we'll take this one. Come and take Elda's microphone.
One of the things, this question goes to Ada Riafe and then Ada Sam. How do you build like successes? Ada, I want to know the next 30, 40 years, if somebody visits Autu Breku, the culture that you have built there, the way you and mom have built a certain culture, how do you intend to maintain it for the next generation? That, this experience that we are going through is a brand that we have built. And I know my brother is now into that section. How do you intend, maybe their generation, their children will go into maybe law, they will not come to medicine. How do you intend to integrate other people to build a dream so that the next 20, 30, 40 years, that brand can still run? Because one of the things that I've noticed that the woman who does Yokogare in the neighborhood, very good. When the main woman dies, his children, that Yokogare is kaput. And we need to raise generational leaders or brands that can travel 50, 80, like Nestle is 150 years and still counting. At Guinness is almost 300 years. They are still counting. How can you build that brand so that generation unborn can benefit from that?
Thank you very much, Ken. Yes, so Elda and Elda.
Okay.
Okay. We shouldn't be selfish as entrepreneurs and as owners. If you are selfish, you die with your business. So whilst you are alive, you have to identify one or two people in the family. I would say in the family, because the workers don't think they will be there for you forever. So identify some people in the family. Have confidence in them. Try to train them the way you want the business to go or the way you are running the business. So we call it succession plan. So the first, maybe 1 year, you identify the IE. Along the line, if you see that the IE will not help your cause, add the RIAFE. If you see that the RIAFE can support the ANI to hold on to the business, maybe you have to add the IE. Now you've gotten 3 people. You must train them well, and whilst you are training them, you have to understudy them as well. Though you are training them, you are the boss. At the same time, understudy those you are training, whether there will be good materials for the future task. So 1, don't be selfish. 2, be vigilant. Try and identify some people in the family who will be able to keep the business together, who will not be selfish, who will not be thinking about themselves, but rather think about others. If you do that, and with a very good succession plan of God on your side, you will succeed. The business will not die after you've gone.
Thank you.
Just to add on to this, in fact, this one here is not the first institution I've established. Like he mentioned, there is always supposed to be a succession plan. And one of my frustrations, like I mentioned, is to find the right people in some key positions. I'm happy to mention that the one we did in Lusaka, Zambia, the Lusaka Eye Hospital, celebrated its 20th anniversary last year.
Wow.
In November.
Wow.
And it's still growing, The secret is to always train people to come in. Train, because people will leave, people will retire, people will, move on, be transferred. So continue training. And once you do that, that idea, that vision that you had will be carried upon. But you need the right people. That's the key.
Thank you very much. Yes, now.
Okay, so mine are a couple of comments.
Sorry?
They are comments.
Comments?
Yes. So, having been an employee and an entrepreneur, and I identify with some of the things that have been said here, and I noted some few things down. So, when I was working, there was a time that, so fortunately our panelists had people, their superiors, who identified their capabilities and then helped them climb up. But then you don't always get that. Sometimes you have bosses who are not happy when you are progressing. So there was a point that it was like that in my office, and it made me relax in performing my duties. Then one day my line manager called me and told me that things you do every day piles up and becomes your character. You may think that you are just doing it to somebody, but then it becomes what you actually are. The day you live and decide to do your business, that is how you would behave. So just take this as a learning curve. And I took it and I learned a lot from them. And also, being an entrepreneur, you should do what you love. You should identify something that you love doing, that you can make money off it. When you do that, you realize that even though you are working and making money, you don't see it as work. It becomes like a hobby you are doing, and it becomes much easier. And also, when starting a business, it's not always that you need a lot of money to start. There are things that you can start very small. You may even have a product. Somebody has to pay parts before you even give it out. So you make your money without putting your own capital into it. So we can look at such options. And also, I would like to say that fortunately in this church, we are giving some opportunities right from when we are pathfinders. Like the craft works we do, some other things we do. We should take all of them serious, because you may not know which of them will become a hobby and with time become your main business in future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much now. Any other hand as we wrap up? maybe that will be the last time, and then we can wrap up.
Thank you. I think it's been very insightful. One of the things I realized is that we don't mentor one another. Mentorship is a huge challenge in this church, even for our pastors. We don't mentor them. By the time we realize there's a huge gap, a whole generation is gone, and the new generation has to struggle. So we should take mentorship as a serious issue. I mean, we should identify people and realize their talents and help them crop them up. One of the things I've also learned is that if you're struggling to find a job, I may be willing to volunteer your services to any company. I mean, that has been my story. All the jobs that I've been to, I just volunteered my service. And I go in there and I deliver, and they're like, okay, you're not going anywhere, you're working with us. So if you're struggling to get a job, just look at one of your favorite companies and just tell them, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. I mean, the money will come in later, but just volunteer your services and do your best, and they'll take you on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that a lot of these tie in with quite a number of things that have been said here, like Dai's point, doing things beyond your normal line of duty. It builds you up. And you mentioned passion. And I think that both Elder Yafi and Elder Waji have all mentioned being passionate about the things that you do. It's been a great time. Our arm leader will give us his final comments. But for me, we've talked about the 7 principles, especially when it comes to doing business: passion, commitment, determination, discipline, hard work, trust, humility. Think like a leader and work like an owner. We've talked about the 7 C's: complacency and being content. Talked about the 3 E's: efficiency, effectiveness, and economical. We've talked about being innovative, being bold, being passionate about what you do, choices. We've talked about hard work. We've talked about remembering your roots. We've talked about some biblical principles that always should guide us. Integrity, the fact that when you lack knowledge, the lack of knowledge, my people will perish. We've talked about being being careful with being hasty when it comes to money. We've talked about being your best, being a diligent person, and listening obediently to the voice of God. We talked about community service and all that. These are principles that I believe guide us in our line of work, and we want to thank you all very much. Can I take final comments, or yeah, okay, we are good. So maybe last words from the 3 of you, or that's what you give us. Yeah? Okay, we are good. Time, we save time. Yes. Elder, we'll take your final comments and then.
All right. So, Adani, you've done a good job. I was going to give a quick summary of the lessons that I have personally picked. But let me also join my voice to and in thanking our panelists. They've done a great job. Personally, I've picked very, very important lessons. But maybe one thing that I want to add is that some of us have skills. We should make ourselves known. Because if I know how to sew, if I know how to cook, if I know how to make hair, let people around know the skill you have. You may not know. You may do something for me, sew a dress for me, and I can recommend you, and that can be the starting point in growing our businesses. Right. So thank you so much for coming. It's been a great week, and it's been a great afternoon. And we want to thank Elder Obri Abuaje. And God bless you so much for sharing such a rich experience. The journey has not been easy, but we thank God for bringing you thus far. And I know that one day, especially the young ones, we will also sit in the chair like this and also share our story with the young ones who are coming after us. Elder Yafe, God bless you, and Elder Ayi, thank you so much. Elder Enu, you've been a fantastic moderator. So we'll take our closing prayer. Is Katie here? Yes, please come and do our closing prayer for us.
Shall we stand and pray respectfully? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for the Sabbath and for the blessings that come with it. We thank you for taking us throughout the day and bringing us here. We thank you for the impactful discussions we've had and the valuable lessons we've learned. Father, we pray that may these lessons form part of us, and may we be successful in all spheres of our lives, our careers, and most importantly, our spiritual lives. Even as we do this, help us to prepare ourselves very well for the soon return of Christ, that when he returns in his glory, we'll all be part of his kingdom and spend eternity with him. We commit the week ahead of us into your hands, O Lord. May you be with us, may you keep us, and may your blessings never elude us. Bless us to this end. In Jesus' name I pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming. A quick announcement. Tomorrow we'll be having our Bible studies from 6:30. So please do join us as we discuss. All right. Then the youth are also inviting us. We started last week at 7 o'clock sharp. We'll come here, do some aerobics, then we'll also have some time to play volley. We are also inviting the elderly ones to also join. At least the aerobics will be good for you. All right, good night, and God be with us all. Amen.
Thank you. Good night. Good night. Thank you very much, Elder.